Hey, what is up, you guys? So today I just decided, since my computer is updating, I'm gonna do a really quick speed sketch on the iPad. I am right in the middle of wrapping up a video for you guys, part 3 of the illustration process, showing how I utilize Photoshop to create illustrations, and it's kind of my process. And I've done part 1 and 2, and it's taken me a little bit longer to get to part 3, just because I've had a ton of work I've had to do, which is always a good thing, right? Work is good. And then I had a couple things happen with my vehicle. For those of you who own vehicles know that they are machines, and unfortunately sometimes they do break down. So what am I drawing today? You guys know that I've been working on a children's book forever, and I always say that. I'm like, yeah, we're on a children's book, and yeah, and this is just, having fun with my character beans, doing a children's book about friendship. And I've been doing concept work for years. I've been doing, so many different types of sketches for years. And it's slow, because, I have to do it in my spare time. And it ain't easy, to say the least. So, yeah, it ain't easy, man. It ain't easy. So I hear that a lot of people are graduating college, graduating high school, getting out into the world. I'm seeing a lot of posts about graduation. And I remember when I graduated, it was glorious times, because I had been in school for quite a while, and, I was on the extended program because I changed majors. And I ended up going into art. Let me see, I go down and up. Okay. I ended up going into art instead of music. I was originally a music major for voice production. I was going to be a singer. And I say I was going to be a singer, and, now I'm not, but actually I am. I still sing. I still do a lot of teaching, voice teaching. Let's do this. He's kind of carrying a fishing pole. And, I had been, you get to that point whenever you're younger and you're like, yeah, I want to do this, this, and this. And then you experiment. And yeah, I wasted a lot of, I don't want to say wasted. There's no education that's wasted, but I definitely paid for it because, later on, whenever I transferred, a lot of the credits didn't transfer to the new college, and I ended up doing some stuff. I had to take a math course. I'm like, dude, I took college algebra. Why do I have to take statistics and math? Actually, I took statistics. It was weird. Colleges are weird whenever it comes to transfer credits. Let's do this. Let's have his little eyebrows coming up. Let's go to his eyes. Anyway, so when I finally graduated in 2000, I was gloriously happy. And it was a great day indeed. I had my whole family there. I was married. We just had a baby in December, and I graduated in May. So, yeah, I was ready to start my life, which I'm sure a lot of you are as well. There we go. I'm not so sure about this. This is just a doodle. I don't like the way his hat's sitting on his head. So let's go ahead and do this. I have the power. Yes, the power of erasing. Okay, so I do like his position of his head. I like that a lot, as an alligator goes. Okay. do like this, comes here, 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 here. All right, so let's have his top of the hat comes up, down, like that. It's kind of a straw hat. Beans has a straw hat. And then you have this part come around and it covers part of his noggin. And then you have this. Comes around. All right. So let's have it this way this time. There we go. Yeah. Anyway, so for those of you who are graduating, congratulations. You know, one of the things that I think we fail to realize is education is a wonderful thing, you know. And those of you who get the opportunity to go to college, you know, it is indeed a wonderful thing. You know, higher education is great if you can afford it. If you can't, then I don't suggest that you take any loans out. That's not a really great idea. You don't want to graduate and suddenly be $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in debt. That's not a good thing. You know, sit there and pay it off for 10 years. And you're like, well, how do you go to school? Well, there's a lot of opportunities, especially in the art field, if that's what you're going into. Now, if you're going to be like a doctor, yeah, you need to go to school and be a doctor. Because there's certifications, there's things that you need to rely upon. Let's do this, have that eyebrow come up. You know, that you want to have what's called validation. You want to be validated in terms of having a quality education for medical. But in terms of art, I mean, there's a lot of different online schools. Yeah, still updating. The Mac is still updating. Online schools for art that you can utilize. Let's go ahead and do this. It's got some suspenders on. That you guys can utilize. I mean, there's, gosh, the Nomenon School, I don't even know how to say it. And I'm sure there's other different educations out there. You know, where you can get your bachelor's or your whatever. Art's kind of that funny in between, you know. It doesn't really require, quote unquote, a degree, but a lot of places want degrees, you know. But the work really, you know, really speaks for itself. If you got good work, you got good work ethic, and, you know, good, decent portfolio, then you don't really need the degree. And let's have that go back a little bit. And I think that, you know, especially down in today's day and age, you don't need to go and spend, you know, so much money at the art schools. And I had a video. I did a video on this just because I thought it was necessary. And, you know, hopefully some people agreed with me. But, you know, the reality is a lot of those people that, you know, push the education on themselves don't have a lot of structure. And I definitely think that if you don't have structure in your life, then yeah, education is good. Because it'll give you structure, it'll expose you to different avenues and opportunities that you wouldn't so much have if you didn't go to school. But in art, the degree is not necessarily necessary. Depends on, I guess, where you go. You know, really and truly the work speaks for itself, you know. And if you got good work, then it's going to be like, hey, he's got good work. You know, I worked with quite a few people at Disney that didn't have degrees, didn't go to school. You know, one guy was incredibly talented. But those are pig and a poke, baby. You know. So, what am I doing? First of all, I am like blinded by this. Let's go ahead and do this. Good. Let's go back here. Good. Okay. I like him. He's looking pretty decent. Got his little shirt here. So now that I've got the gesture in, I've got the generalized, let's do a little pocket. Have that other finger right there. Yeah, maybe he's out. This area right here is bothering me, so let's go ahead. Well, I don't want to get rid of it totally. Just give a slight indication because I want to change the gesture. So let's go ahead. Let's match up. His arm comes here. It comes into the outside. Here's his elbow. Here's the inside of his hand. Okay, curves around, and he's got his fingers, so it's a little bit higher, I believe. Right there. And let's have that go here. Good. Let's have that here. Maybe it's a fishing pole. Here we go. He's gone fishing. He's out fishing. And now he's got some straw coming out here. Okay. That's pretty good. Maybe we'll have that go up here. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that either. That's pretty good. Okay. So let's have that tail. I've been watching a lot of Procreate. It's the Owens. Late at night. I really enjoy. I used to love watching Crocodile Hunter. I don't know if anybody ever watched that. I used to love it. And then, of course, I was devastated when in 2006 he ended up having an accident, in the ocean, and a stingray ended up killing him. And that was horrid. But I like watching Procreate, the other ones, because it shows that family dynamic and how they've carried that legacy that he really introduced the world to. The whole crocodile and conservation, and it's been around for a long time, but he was just so enthusiastic about it. I told my kids, I said, he was the real deal. He loved animals, and he sacrificed a lot. And, of course, he sacrificed himself trying to educate people. But I love watching the show because it shows up close and personal different animal types that exist in the world. And it's just a lot of fun. I just really enjoy watching it. Crockett's here when it's on Discovery Plus. For those of you who pay for that service, it is a paid service. I think everything's paid now. I don't even know what I'm paying for anymore, honestly. And that's not really a good thing. I'm like, do I have Discovery Plus? I think I do. Oh, yeah, I do. Wait a minute, I got HBO Plus? Or HBO Max? I got Disney Plus too? When did I get all these? My kids are like, Dad, you did it like last year. And I'm like, wait a minute. How much does this cost? I remember when I was a kid, my dad did that. How much does all this cost? Then we got Cablevision or something. And my mom's like, well, we've been having it for years. Come on. And he's like, you could tell he was kind of dumbfounded. He's like, I had no idea I was paying that much for this. Yeah, buddy. All right, so now let's give a little bit more definition to his outfit. I'm probably going to have to do something about the eyes. I think the eyes are wrong. Here. Yeah, he's looking pretty good. This area right here is causing an issue. So I think it's too tall. So I need to go ahead and define that a little bit better. Let's double tap again. There we go. So let's have that come out here, there. Okay, there we go. Kind of comes up, and then this. Maybe he's got a. No, I want to say a belt. No, he's got overalls on, so overalls kind of goes right here. Okay. All right, so now what I would do, and I actually will do because my computer has stopped updating, I'm going to probably, the next video that I do will be just the inking process. I want this thumb, this needs to come here, because this comes here. It's like this, and then the fingers wrap around that fishing pole. It goes off in the distance. You don't want it to hit this. So it goes off in the distance and it curves. Okay. All right. So I said that because I want this wrist and it's split and this comes here. Yeah, this is wrong. So this needs to come back. There we go. And around. And here. And it goes over his shoulder. Little adjustments here and there really help me. And have his elbow come here, and then it's got a little bit of a droop. And then he's got his fingers here, here, there. Okay. Here, he's got the little spots. He's got spots. Okay. All right, so next thing I'll do is I'll go to my transparency. I'll push back the transparency, and I'll add a layer. Now, you see that I use this brush right here, this Pastel C brush. This is part of a collection. I call it Michael's Main. You see that I've got a lot of brushes here. And I don't, here's the deal. I don't recommend you do what I do. Don't do what I do. Because I have so many brushes, I don't even know what I have. I mean, I come down here to imported, and I've got like a billion brushes. So I don't really have, and I typically use 1 or 2 brushes, 3 brushes, and I think I've overdone it. You know, whenever I got the iPad, I really started having fun with it. And it got out of hand really quick. Oh, I need to go here. This brush, I need to reset this brush. About this brush. Reset. Done. There we go. I like the standard brush they give. It's just got a nice texture to it. And, you know, not everybody likes it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to refine. I'm going to refine. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to, you know, put a little bit more character in it. I'm going to push and pull the pose. So it'll be on time-lapse. So enjoy the time-lapse process of me inking this guy. Okay? Enjoy. So here's where we are right now. I've blocked in the general color of the illustration and I'm working on the background. Originally I wasn't going to do a background, but I think in this context it kind of needs it, just to kind of give you an area of where this particular character is. I'm going to show you my layer hierarchy right now. So you can see that down below I've still retained my original excuse me, sketch my original sketch, because I like to keep that on hand just for giggles, in case I want to, you know, show progression of the illustration, maybe on a one sheet or something like that. So basically what I did is I'm going to go ahead through and show you all of the, let's go and get rid of all these right here. So here's the original sketch. And as I progressed through, I made a couple changes, and I believe I showed that to you on the previous standard lapse, not time lapse. So then I went in and I put in kind of general overview, kind of a change, you know, still in that rough sketch stage. Revising, refining, I changed the arm right here and some of the other things that I wanted to do with it. And then I created the final sketch. And I changed my pencil to a pen, and I'll show you the pen that I'm using. It's in IGB Vintage ink, and it's the Crow Quill pen in its stock form. I went through a bunch of the pens, and I decided this was kind of the pen that I wanted to land on. And as you go in, and I'm going to go ahead and create a stroke for you really quick. Whoops. Cancel. I'm on a hidden layer. Duh. Okay, so I'm going to create a stroke. And as you see, it's got great variation of line weight. And you can go really thin or really thick. And it's the same basic size over here on the left-hand side. And what I like about it, if you really zoom in, you can see in some of the areas, like right here and right here, it looks like in the center that it is a little white. And I like that. I like that it gives kind of a quality that maybe I've not put enough ink in the pen itself, and it basically looks traditional. So then I went in and I blocked in this. This is the kind of the silhouette. So if I were to remove this right here, you can see that it is a creature of some sort, and I'm sure because of the tail and the pointed nose that you can determine and ascertain that it is indeed an alligator. And I didn't really get too much into the minutia of the silhouette, because once I got to this stage, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with that. So let's go ahead and leave the sketch in. Then I started blocking in color flats. The color flats, of course, being the color without any light or shadow on them, any highlights or anything like that. So first thing I did was I blocked in the green, as you saw in the time lapse, and I started blocking in some of the other color areas that I thought were important. And as I progressed through, you can see me clicking on the layers. I've pretty much blocked in all of the colors. And then I'm like, you know what, I need to do the foreground, and I did the little foreground area right there. And of course, I put some highlights in the eyes right there near the end. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And of course, all of this is before I go in and put any of the textures or any of the shadows or any of the highlights on him. So you see this main layer. It looks pretty normal. It's got a normal layer transparency. And you're like, okay, so why do these have little arrows on them on the left-hand side? And they look sort of indented on the left-hand side there where the arrow is. So this is known as a layer mask. So if I click on that layer and then I click it again with my stylus, you can see that I've got clipping mask clicked. So whenever I do that, I created a new layer, layer 8, above layer 6, and I went over and I clicked it again and I clicked clipping mask. And what that does is you see it uses that arrow right there and it references the layer below it. Now the layer below, that is a normal layer. So a clipping mask, I don't believe, can reference another clipping mask. So every consecutive layer that I created on top of the layer, they all reference layer 6. So whenever I paint on them, let's say this one, okay, so let's say this one right here, I go in and I'm going to start putting in maybe some texture. Okay, so let's go back up to one of my favorite brushes, which is probably what I'm going to use, Pastel C. Cancel. And I'm going to sample the color layer. I'm going to just put a little bit of darkness on there. And you can see that since it is a clipping mask, if I go ahead and try to go outside, it won't allow me to do it because it's referencing that gray layer all the way on the bottom. And two, what's really cool is I can go in and just work on the blue layer, or I can work on the orange shirt layer, or I can work on the buttons, or I can work on the hat, or I can work on this on beans. So let's say I go ahead and grab that color and I go down, and I can just go in and start blocking in some of these little texture items and shadows on beans using this brush really quickly. See how suddenly now it becomes a little bit more than what it was. It's got form. You can actually do this. Let's say if I wanted to create a clipping mask that has the shadows only. So I go ahead and create a layer. I click it again. I hit clipping mask. I choose a shadow. I don't like using black, so I like typically using a purple hue. And I put that on multiply. Okay, multiply. And now I've got a shadow layer. So I can increase the size here. And this, I call this a global shadow because now what I'm going to do is I can go in and just put in really quickly some nice shadows on my character. And since it's referencing this gray layer down here, it's only going to be within the confines of that original silhouette that I created. Remember I showed you in the beginning the gray silhouette? So it's not going to come down here. So it's not. You can see as I try, it won't go into the grass layer down below. And you see, I can go in and really just start having a lot of fun putting in my shadows rather quickly. You know, as you see, you can get a lot done very quickly using this methodology. And this methodology is the same in Procreate as it is for Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint and Krita. So, you know, this method works in all of those programs. You know, using the layer transparency, you know, with the shadow. And you see suddenly, see if I make my brush really big. Okay, and you can do the same thing with highlights here. I'll show you in just a second. Because this is, I'm just showing this to you currently. I don't believe I'm going to use any of these shadows. Well, I might. And you see, you can really just start having a lot of fun. Increase, decrease your brush. And I'm putting in, I would call them the mid-grade shadows. I'm not into the really dark stuff yet. So if I came back in, just on this finger, whoops, I would increase the brush size and I would start thinking about all the little folds that are happening. The little cast shadow underneath his finger. See? And since it's on multiply, every single time I go over it again and again and again, it multiplies that shadow effect. You can see how effective it is very quickly. And I'm literally, I'm just resting my stylus. Sorry, Apple Pencil. I'm resting the Apple Pencil on the screen, kind of allowing the weight of the pencil to push down. If I start really getting in there, see how dark it is? And I can adjust that over here for the opacity, but this gives me the maximum pressure sensitivity of the pencil. See over here, when you start adjusting this, you're taking away your ability to feel. And you know, I think there's benefits to that in some time, and you know, in some moments, but I like to feel the pressure of the stylus. And you can see very quickly you get a nice, you know, a nice overall look. And this is the stage where I equate it to sculpting, right? So sculpting, of course, being height, width, and depth. So that happens whenever you start adding a light source or variation of line weight or, you know, perspective cues. So I'm sculpting. Thinking three-dimensionally is key whenever you draw illustrations like this, because you want them to live in a real environment, and, you know, relating to them is important, especially as a visual artist. Relating to them, your real world, into their real world. See? And then, just for giggles, I'm going to add a layer, and this is just to show you the highlight process. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click again, and click Clipping Mask, and again, layer 18 references all the way down here to layer 6. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to choose a warm light. So let's go to that yellow. I'm going to come to my layers. Over here where it says in, I'm going to click on the in, and I'm going to go to overlay. Okay, just like a gel that you would have in a lighting situation, that overlay is going to tint the light, and everything underneath it is going to cause it to be tinted by that yellow hue. So as you see, let's make sure that we're on overlay. Oh, we're not. So overlay. Overlay. See that little O right there? That references the overlay capacity of the layer transparency. Oops, so I don't want to go down there because I haven't hit the shadow yet. So now that yellow is going to interact with the green. You see? That yellow is going to interact with the blue. Okay? That yellow is going to pull out the highlights. And it's also going to, because you can see right here, there is light in there. So it's going to pull the lighting effect from there. So I'm not going to get too heavy-handed with this, because this is I just wanted to show you a test. Really quick like. And with those highlights, man, you can get in there and have some really cool, you can have a lot of fun with it. And warm that stick up. So what I'm going to do, just because this is a long process, guys. This isn't instantaneous. As I progress through the illustration, I'm thinking a lot of things. You guys know that I'm a big proponent of telling you how I'm thinking in the illustration as I progress through. So right now, earlier, I was at a point, I'm like, so what do I do next? I want to add something. It's not enough. I just don't want to show him in his, on the page without some type of environment context. So I sketched in a really simple environment in the background. He's kind of on the farm. There's a tree nearby to help frame him. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to go down a little bit. And I'm going to show you what I did. So again, the illustration process is that of forming a story on the page to help the viewer interact with what he's seeing. I put him a little bit off center of the page, and then I use this element right here to really frame him, right, in kind of that box, that rule of thirds. He's on an intersect plane right here. Let me go ahead and I'm going to go all the way to the top. Let's add a layer right here. So you see I've got that tree that kind of frames him, and then I separate him here because I want your focus to be right here. I'm not interested in your focus being here. I'm not interested in your focus being here. I'm not interested in any of that. I want your focus to be right on his face. Okay, so I've got a lot of detail up here in textures. I've got a lot of detail up here in textures. And then I've used this as a framing element. Okay, and then I've got these elements right here to help direct you up. They're directing you up, right? And then I've got this stick right here, again, to direct your eye back this way, okay? One of the things that I think as an early illustrator or artist extraordinaire, which is what you are, you forget about a lot of the framing elements that help you, that you can utilize in your illustrations, such as the tree, right? And then I've got this opposing curve, because opposing curves are nice. And then you notice I didn't put anything in the corner, right? I didn't put anything in the corner. I actually consciously separated the tree to help leave this area open, because I don't want that tangent going in there. It directs your eye and it causes you just to go right to it. And it did the same thing here. And again, I've got here's a curve right here, and I've got an opposing curve here. So all these things. And then you have this stick that's pointing right up to his face. Okay? And then since we like repetition in our minds, we like that repetition. It's very comforting. I've got these two curves, again, really repeating themselves. And I got this curve right here. And it happens again right here. And then, of course, here's another one right here and another one right here. So you have all of these elements that really help define the character of the illustration. It's friendly. The illustration is friendly. It doesn't have a lot of hard edges. A lot of the edges are either curved. So we have cancel. So we have, let's add a layer. So all these curves, right? You have these opposing curves. Curves. You know, curve. Everything is friendly. The only hard line that I really have is this geometric board right here. That's kind of the only element that is really harsh. And I could lop that off and I could make it, you know, if I wanted to, I could make it a curved top. But I think in the context of the illustration, it works. So I'm going to leave it. So we're going to get rid of these layers that I created. And then as I progress through, I'm like, okay, so now it's time that I go ahead and start inking. So I went down to this layer 15 and I have pushed it back a little bit in transparency land. So then I created layer 16, and as you see, I'm starting to ink the background. Now, this is a very important stage because one of the things that we always have to remember is the importance of what you're trying to get across in the context of the illustration. You're trying to get a story across, okay? What is the story about? The story is about Beans. He's standing there in his native environment on the farm fixing to go fishing, okay? The story is not about the tree. The story is not about the boards. The story is not about the farm in the background. These are supporting elements. All supporting elements in your illustration need to cater to the main focus. Therefore, they cannot have the same render quality as the main illustration, meaning all of this stuff in the background, all of this business right here cannot compete with Beans, okay? So what will end up happening, let's get rid of that. What will end up happening is I will block in all of the color in the background, and it will support Beans, but all of this stuff back here will not have the same intensity as the main character, okay? As him. I will detail him out. This tree right here will not have the same texture quality as him. I will possibly even blur all of this. That's why it's a choice. Whenever you start doing one of these illustrations, You don't want to put too much effort into the background if you're going to blur it. If it is not a main focal point of your piece, don't spend tons of time on doing it, because it's a waste of time. And you're saying, well, wait a minute. What if I want everything to be super rendered and highly rendered? And that is your, that is your opinion, philosophy, style. If that's what you want to do, that is completely up to you. Because here I'm looking for I got so many different brushes. There's so many brushes. I thought that was the one that I used. No, it's that one. And it's a balance. It's a balance as an illustrator that you want to do everything, have incredible renders. I'm going to render every piece of bark right here. Yeah. No, that's a supporting element. You don't want to do that. And it's part of the illustrator's job, especially whenever you start working professionally, because you as an individual and a artist, you have to balance things out to work with time. If somebody was paying me to do this, I would have to think, okay, what's the maximum amount of effort that I need to do to get everything across? Or I'm sorry, not the maximum, the most efficient. It's like, I don't want to spend 12 hours on rendering a hat when it's going to be a periphery part. Yeah, actually, I'm on the wrong layer. A periphery part of the illustrations. There's a simple way. If you draw on the wrong layer, all I need to do is I go ahead and click that, I hold it, and I bring it all the way down here to my line layer. I take 2 fingers, and then I match them together, and then suddenly my mistake becomes a benefit. Okay? So that's where I'm going to land right now. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on time lapse as I ink the background, as I block in the color of the background. And, in Procreate, it's so fast. Procreate's one of those wonderful programs that really is wonderful. I use Photoshop in my main work. I don't really use Procreate in my main work. But every single time I use this program, I think to myself, wow, this is a really powerful program. I should use this more. And that's something that I might consider at some point in time, doing some of my main illustration work in Procreate. Do I know that a lot of people use this program for professional work? Yeah, but I'm not quite at that stage yet. I'm not quite there. In terms of file transfer, fonts, a lot of the other stuff that I do in my work, I just don't think that the iPad and Procreate, that I can use it in its full extent just yet. And I've been using Procreate for quite a while. I love doing artwork, illustration, and concept work on it. It is a travel companion. It is a wonderful device. And I've seen people do insane artwork on it. And, that is just, that's fine. And I would never put down on a tool that is a resource and an asset. And that's what this is. This is a resource and an asset for me. The iPad and Procreate. Wonderful program. Of course, after this, I'm going to probably be like, dude, I could do an entire children's book on this. Which you probably can. I'm sure people have. So, anyway, enjoy the time lapse, and we'll do a final little ditty wrap up near the end of the illustration, just to kind of show you where I landed with, how I rendered things. Because right now, I'm talking and illustrating, and I need to get back into the zone. So, anyway, enjoy the process, guys. Thanks a lot. Okay, so this is the final piece. I've only got like one or two things that I'm just playing with right now. I've got this layer right now. I added a final layer and I've got it on color burn, which basically is going to burn in and go in and burn a color similar to exposure, so exposing with a color. So if I want to go in and I want to change, see, it's similar to the color layer, but since I'm burning, it doesn't change the underlying, how do I put it? It's hard to describe. Anyway, so as I move through here, you see how it's intermixing with the colors underneath. So like over on this right hand side, how I want the green to be a little bit cooler, so I'll just take that blue. So I've got a nice blue hue and I've got it on color burn, and I'm going in and I'm just changing that hue slightly to give it a cooler value, a cooler tone or hue, cooler color, if you like, right here. And then let me see, I'll go and I'll add that, and then I'll change this over to a yellow hue, and I've got this shade brush here. What I can do is I'll just go in and put a few little beams of light coming from the top. Maybe it's hitting some of these areas right here. Okay, whoops, that was my finger. And I'm going to show you here in a second. But I'm not going to leave it like this. This is just to show me where stuff is going. Okay. Alright, so then we're going to come back. We're going to adjust this to overlay. Let's go back to normal, and then I'm just going to pull back on the opacity right about to there. That's pretty good. And then finally, on top of everything, kind of a white. Let's go to splatter, no. Flora. Oh, that might have been what I needed right there. Some mulch, stipple. Okay, this is what I want. So, a lot of times I think whenever we're doing illustrations and we get into this point, we don't know where else to go with it. You know, I could render the light, I can render, you know, a myriad of different things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of the atmospheric items in here. This little white, just here and there. Maybe it's dirt, maybe it's dust, maybe it's in the moment. And that's, you know, let's make it a little bit smaller here. Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Come up here to Gaussian blur. And we're going to do the entire layer, and I'm sliding to adjust. There we go. Just a little bit out of focus. Maybe it's really close to us. And I'm going to come down, and I've got the original. See, you noticed I flattened him to his own layer, and I did that because I wanted to go in and have some areas with some blur, like right there. So then I'm going to add a layer in the background. We're going to have some, again, some atmospherics that are going behind him, but on top of the other layers. They're going to be a little bit more in focus because they're almost on the same ground plane as him, but not quite. So let's go ahead and go back to Gaussian blur. We're going to hit layer, and I'm taking my stylus and I'm just sliding it. Zooming out. Then, since he is in outside, let's go down. Where's some leaves? Leaves, leaves, leaves. Primal color. Bamboo. Okay, got flora. I'm looking for my foliage. Foliage. Forest tails. This grass is really good. Noise is really good. But I'm looking for specifically, this is autumn flow. These are leaves. Splatters, leaves. I don't quite want to go right there. I'm looking for foliage. Foliage, here we go. So these are really good right here, these leaves. Okay, so let's make them not white. We're going to make them kind of brown. Okay. Okay, again, we'll go to Gaussian blur, layer, just a little bit, just to give it some movement. And that's it. That is what I wanted to show you guys today in Procreate. So you basically watched me from the beginning, start out as a doodle, you know, and progress through into a rendered illustration. We're not too heavy on the layers. It looks like we got around 30 layers, I believe, in this configuration. Let me see here, canvas. So right now, I see 91 layers. I can still go 91 layers at this size. Right now we're at 2048 by 2732, which is roughly like a 2K. A 2K configuration, which is pretty good because when I zoom in, I still get real nice detail overall. And one little final thing I can do with the eyes. So we'll add a final, we'll get a little bit of a blue hue here. We'll go back to, where are they at? Right here. That little soft shade brush is really nice. Okay, so let's make it really tiny. A little bit of reflective light down here. And that just adds a little bit more. Let's sample that white really quick. Let's make that a nice round. There we go. So this, of course, is Beans, alligator, for my children's book. Continuing on in my quest to define who he is as a character, and of course there's Frank the bear, and I am currently working on the whole storyline and getting everything figured out. But you know, working in Procreate's a great exercise, and you know, I've said before, this program always surprises me in its capability. It just lacks from you know, having the quick keys on the left hand side, and also some of the tools. Now, you know, a lot of people would disagree and say Procreate is an all-in-one. It's a fantastic program that I think, you know, would be a great you know, a great addition to anybody's repertoire. And you know, in some respect I do agree, but you know, the one thing that it suffers from is the whole file management issue. You know, if I had the ability to transfer files more efficiently and quickly, then I would probably use it a little bit more, you know? But overall, it's like Dodge. I want a Dodge brush. Like a Dodge and Burn, because I use Dodge and Burn in Photoshop, you know? It's not Photoshop. But on the other hand, it is a powerful tool. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this short video, long video. You know, in the time lapse and everything else. So please like and subscribe, and please hit that notification bell. I'm trying to upload videos a lot more often for you guys and grow the channel. So thank you guys, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.